Hello, everybody, and welcome to another week of Food as Medicine. My name is Adi Ekmawa, and today we'll be doing a presentation on bone health and nutrition. We'll be talking about the importance of bone health. We'll talk more about bone mass, also known as bone density. We'll talk about osteoporosis, nutrition that will help with bone health and preventing osteoporosis, and additional things you can do to help keep and maintain your bone health. So why is bone health important? Our bones do a lot for our bodies. They provide shape and support. They protect our organs. They give us the ability to move our body, and they produce our blood cells. They store energy for us. They also are storage for minerals like calcium and phosphorus. 99% of our calcium is in our bones, and about 85 to 90% of phosphorus is in our bones as well. So bone remodeling is when osteoblasts, which are cells that build bone, and osteoclasts are cells that cut bones, are constantly working with one another. So the bones being built, the bones being broken down, and that constant process is called bone formation and reabsorption. So that's how bone remodeling occurs, is when bone formation and bone reabsorption occurs. So bone formation, the bones are being built up, and then bone resorption is when it's being broken down. So what is bone mineral density? Bone mineral density, also known as BMD, or bone mass, is a product of bone formation and bone reabsorption. So again, the breaking down of the cells of the bones and the building up of the bones. That constant process this is what BMD measures, is that process, it's the bone remodeling. Currently, there's no accurate measure of overall bone strength, but the BMD is used as a way to give a close, accurate measurement of your bone strength. When bone formation outpaces bone reabsorption, so when you are, when you're a toddler and you're growing up, when you're a teenager, the bone formation is faster than absorption. So you're constantly building bone. And then when you reach your peak, so usually around 30, you reach your bone density peak, your max, that is when the reverse happens, where the bone resorption, the bone that's being broken down, that outpaces bone formation. And that's when your bone density gradually starts to decrease once you hit your peak. And the different components that can affect that, 80% of it is counted towards genetics. So the different factors that can affect when you hit your bone, your peak bone density. So we're going to talk about osteoporosis now. So osteoporosis, it's a disease that's usually characterized by low bone density. Your bone tissue starts to deteriorate, and it can also affect your bone strength, and usually becomes weaker and brittle bones. And also can be called porous bones, or you can see, which you'll see a picture of it, but you'll see why it's called porous bone, because it leaves a lot of holes in your bones as it starts to decay. It's a very common bone disease, usually in women. It can cause fractures. It can lead to increased bone loss when you age, when you get older. It can increase your susceptibility to fracture and your mobility, so you might be in pain more. People, when they say they are shorter, this usually is a reason why people usually shrink in height when they go older. And it can affect the way you move, your ability to be independent, so it can have effect on you overall. So this is why it is called porous bones. On the left, you can see a healthy picture of a bone. You can see that it does have holes, all bones do, but it is pretty thick in its structure. But as compared to the right side, those are porous bones. So you can see the holes are a lot bigger and wider, and they're a lot thinner as well. So they're very susceptible to fracture and breaking because they're becoming brittle. These are a couple of facts about osteoporosis. It is a very global, big, large health problem. It usually affects postmenopausal women, white and Asian women. Postmenopausal because estrogen is like a cushion. So when after menopause, your estrogen levels decrease. And so that cushion that estrogen provides is no longer there. And so women who are postmenopausal are usually more susceptible because of that. It does affect men. About 0.8 million men have osteoporosis in the US, but again, like I mentioned, is more of a common disease among women. And 42.5 million adults have low bone density of the hip. This does not equate to osteoporosis, but again, there is a connection between it, usually. So this is a picture of a DEXA scan. It uses x-rays to calculate your bone density and strength. It's a pretty quick process, takes about 10 minutes, it's pretty painless. And it can also be covered by insurance. I believe Medicare Plan B covers it as well. And these are a couple of recommendations for people to get the DEXA scan, or at least a test for the BMD if they're able to, whenever they can. So women over the age of 65, men over the age of 70. Younger postmenopausal women, women in menopause transition, again, that change in estrogen levels has a large effect on your bone density. Men aged 50 to 69 and women under the age of 65 with clinical risk factors. Adults who have experienced fractures after the age of 50. And adults with a condition that's taking medication that can affect their bone mass. Again, Medicare Part B does cover the DEXA scan, and you can get it done once every 2 years if you are at risk. And the clinical factors are your intake of alcohol, smoking, if you have any family history, eating disorders, those can be examples of clinical risk factors. So there's not a treatment for osteoporosis. Usually the goal is to just prevent it from deteriorating at a fast rate. But medication is the first line to help you manage your osteoporosis. Food, exercise, which we'll talk more about, those are additional protective factors that can help keep your bones healthier and also prevent the decay from happening a lot faster. It can also help with fall prevention, which can lead to fracture, which can also increase morbidity. So strategies to reduce fractures. Again, fractures there's a link between having low bone density and increase in fractures. And so if you're able to reduce the risk of fractures, that can help you a long way. So increasing your bone density through medication, weight-bearing exercise, and bone healthy diet, which we'll talk more about in the next couple of slides. Posture and balance training can definitely help you a lot. Regular eye exams, proper footwear, assisted devices, so canes or using a wheelchair, things that can help you when you are walking, and fall-proofing your surroundings. So if you have a slippery rug, if you're able to make that more stable, adding a like a pole in the shower to help you get in and out. So again, finding ways to prevent yourself from falling can also help reduce your risk of getting a fracture. Now we're talking about the nutrients that can help you with your bone health. So nutrition does play a large role when it comes to osteoporosis prevention. It helps kids and young adults achieve their genetic potential for peak bone mass. So when you're growing up, your parents are always telling you to drink lots of milk and drink lots of milk. And so at a young age, while your bones are still building a lot faster than being broken down, it's really crucial to make sure you're providing the nutrients that you need for your bones. It helps to support your bone developments when you are a fetus, so that plays a large role. Helping adults avoid premature bone loss, especially if they haven't hit their peak bone density yet. And helping older adults or individuals to maintain their bone health. So as you get older and your bone health starts to diminish, so fall prevention strategies, reducing your risk of falling, those are examples that can help you prevent you from your osteoporosis deteriorating. Nutrition can also help to supplement that as well. So the four main nutrients that we're going to talk about are calcium, vitamin D, protein, and sodium. So first one is calcium. So calcium helps our muscles move. It helps nerves carry messages to the brain and the body. It helps with blood vessels. It does a lot for our body. And so it is actually the primary bone forming minerals. As I mentioned before, when you're growing up, a lot of parents will tell their kids to make sure they're drinking their milk because the milk has calcium, and that really helps to keep our bones nice and strong. Other things that the bone can help with is helping to achieve your peak bone mass, maintain your bone mass, diminish bone mineral loss, so losing calcium from your bones at a quick rate. And it can help reduce incidence of osteoporosis or fracture-related instances. So these are a couple of sources for calcium. So dairy products, like I mentioned before, milk is a very common one. A lot of people are drinking more plant-based milks, so soy milk, almond milk. And if you are to drink those, make sure that they are fortified in calcium and also vitamin D, which we'll talk more about. Since they don't naturally produce those minerals, making sure that it's fortified, make sure that you are getting the calcium that you need. Other sources of calcium are oranges, vegetables like broccoli and spinach, legumes, so like beans, lentils, peas, and soy products as well. And again, the bottom box says calcium fortified food. These foods that are listed are not naturally occurring foods that have calcium, but again, if it is fortified, it has that additional calcium nutrient. So making sure that it says calcium fortified because not all of those foods are naturally sources that are rich in calcium. And this is just a table that has the RDA, so recommended daily amount of calcium. So depending on the age, that is the amount of calcium that you should be consuming. So to know how much calcium you are to consume, this just gives you an approximate amount of calcium that is in different servings of common foods that we consume. So it helps to give you an idea of how much calcium you'll be consuming. So for example, a cup of milk is about 300 milligrams of calcium. So if you need about 1,200, if you drink 3 cups of milk in a day, you have 900 and you are close to your 1,200 minimum. Usually at the bottom, you see it says you have an additional 300 milligrams from the food that we consume throughout the day. If you add all the little amounts of calcium that it all has, usually you already have 300 milligrams right off the bat. So if you need like 900, if you drink 3 cups of milk, not 300 cups of milk, 3 cups of milk, and you have your already 300 milligrams, by the end of the day, you've had 1,200 milligrams of calcium. So again, it just depends on the source of calcium you're consuming and how much you need. But again, this table just gives you an idea of what common foods we consume and how much calcium is in it. It can kind of help you formulate how much of what you should be consuming to reach your RDA of calcium. And it's important, if you can, to spread out how much you consume the calcium. It just helps your body absorb it better. So you probably wouldn't have all your 3 cups of milk at the very beginning of the day for breakfast. You should be able to spread it out throughout the day to help your body absorb the calcium better. There are supplements for calcium if you're not able to get the amounts that you need. Again, the best way to get the nutrients is from eating the food naturally, but if you do need the extra calcium, supplements are available. Just making sure you're always talking to your doctor, registered dietitian, when you are buying those calcium supplements. And now I'll be talking about vitamin D. So vitamin D helps our bodies absorb calcium from our diet. So you'll see vitamin D and calcium are like siblings, or like best friends, and usually come in pairs, are always together. When you see calcium fortified, you usually see vitamin D. So they usually work very well together. So not having enough vitamin D, it can affect, especially when adults over the age of 65, it can affect their bone loss and can help increase their risk of fracture. So again, vitamin D is an important nutrient to be consuming. Our main source, as I'm sure most of us know, is from the sunlight. But if we're not able to get the correct amount of vitamin D that we need, especially during the winter and other times, there are other supplements is another way, and other dietary sources as well. So some fatty fishes like salmon, sardines are good examples, fish liver oils, egg yolks, and again, fortified milk. The milk has to stay fortified to ensure that it does have the vitamin D added to the milk. Similarly, this is an example of a table that gives you the list of RDA for vitamin D. So it has the age groups on the left, and it has the recommended daily amount on the right side. Again, similarly to calcium, if you do need to supplement, make sure you're always talking to your doctor and your registered dietitian before buying the supplements. A lot of times multivitamins or calcium supplements already contain vitamin D. So do make sure that you're reading the labels correctly to make sure that it is not just vitamin D. It might have vitamin D in other supplements, but making sure that you're consuming the correct amount of vitamin D is really important. Now I'll be talking about protein. So protein is very essential for achieving peak bone mass and helps to preserve and keep your muscle nice and strong as you age. So these are a list of protein sources. One thing I love about protein sources is regardless of your diet style, whether you like to eat meat, whether you're vegetarian or you're vegan, there are a variety of protein sources from different types of food groups that you'll consume. And you'll also notice that there are products like dairy products and soy products that are also legumes that are also good sources of calcium. So a lot of times if you're consuming some of those products, you're also not only getting your protein, but also your calcium as well. So it's a nice double up on certain nutrients. To know how much protein you should be consuming, a quick little formula is to multiply your weight in pounds by 0.36. So if you weigh 150 pounds, then you need about 54 grams of protein a day. Now we'll be talking about sodium. So too much sodium can actually cause more calcium to be excreted from your body. So as you're increasing the sodium, your kidneys are starting to excrete the calcium, and that diminishes the calcium that's in your body. And we all talked about how calcium is needed for bone formation. So again, diminishing the amount of sodium that you need is really important. So sodium salt is used in a lot of different ways for cooking, but things to keep in mind is that salt is not the only way to season food. So if you use other seasonings, or using things that are low in sodium, sauteing garlic and onion, those are great ways to still flavor your food without having to rely heavily on salt. And 2,300 milligrams, less than that is the recommended daily amount for sodium, which is actually a teaspoon of sodium, fun fact. So a lot of the foods that we already consume is already really high in sodium. So watching how much salt you consume is really important. Canned veggies are a great source of veggies, but one thing about canned food is that usually it has lots of salt because of preservatives. So another way to also cut back on salt is to rinse out some of the food that comes from canned goods. That's one way to cut back on the salt that was contained and stuck to the food items. We're going to talk about other nutrients outside of 4 that we mentioned that can also help with bone formation and growth. So potassium, magnesium, vitamin C and K, those are all great nutrients that can also help to supplement bone health. And a lot of these are found in fruits and vegetables. So eating about 5 cups a day can help you to provide those nutrients. And also diversifying your fruits and veggies. Different fruits and veggies have different superpowers. And so the more variety you eat, the more of those nutrients you're consuming. So just to summarize, nutrition side of bone health, getting lots of protein, calcium, and vitamin D is really important. Not consuming too much sodium or salt in your food is also important as well. And adding those fruits and veggies, about 5 cups of servings a day, can help you get the additional nutrients that you need to help maintain bone health. And we just have a couple of recommendations of things that you can do to also help with your bone health. So weight-bearing activities are a great way to help strengthen your bone and increase your bone density. So lifting weights, push-ups, Pilates, those are great ways to strengthen your muscles, and which can in turn strengthen your bones as well. It can also help, especially with older adults, it can help prevent them against fall prevention, strengthening those muscles, like the hips, which is very susceptible to falling. Strengthening those muscles, those bones can help catch yourself when you're about to trip, for example. And so physical activity is a great thing to keep in mind. Again, as always, 150 minutes a week, which is about 30 minutes a day. But any movement is better than none. So if you are taking the stairs versus the elevator, or park a little further in the parking lot when you're going grocery shopping, any movement really does help. Smoking in general is not good for our health, and it can affect your bone health in different ways. It can lower your bone density and increase your bone mineral loss and risk of fracture. So if you're able to find a cessation program to help you prevent smoking. Excessive alcohol is also not recommended for bone health. It is seen to affect the bone remodeling process. Women should not consume more than a drink a day, and then men no more than 2 drinks. And a drink is about 12 ounces of beer, 5 ounces of wine, or 1.5 ounces of spirits. Fluid needs are very important. So a lot of times when older adults, when they get older, the signal that tells them that they're thirsty and to drink water is not as strong and prominent as it used to be. So always making sure that you're drinking your water. If you feel dehydrated or dizzy, you might end up falling. So again, drinking your 6 to 8 cups a day, if that more is always better, to keep yourself hydrated. And your doctor may provide you with medication to help with your treatment of osteoporosis. So again, always talking to your doctor and making sure that medication is what's appropriate and you're taking it in the right amounts. So again, to help you prevent osteoporosis, a healthy diet, we mentioned different nutrients, that is a good component to a healthy diet. Being active, not smoking, reducing your use of alcohol, getting your bone density testing with a DEXA scan if you're able to, and again, always talking to your doctors. Examine your risks. So if you are susceptible to osteoporosis, think of what you're doing now, what you would like to change, and how you can make this change possible. So again, if you are not consuming enough calcium, think, how can I start to incorporate that more into my diet? What do I need to change to incorporate more calcium, and how can I do that? Thank you again for being with us as we went through another session of our programming, another week of Food as Medicine. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to call our office or send me an email. Thank you.